What's going on, folks? Ted from Immersion here, and I'm back with another Kickstarter review, or I guess sort of a follow-up with our good friends over at Ryoko's Guide to the Yokai Realms. As I told you, I had a feeling this one was going to break 1 million. It's currently sitting at 1.6 with 20 days left to go. This could break 2 million. And it is a fantastic, amazing history, story, all sorts of things, yokai monsters, kaiju hunts, spells, subclasses, etc. I will have a tracking link down in the top of the video description, as well as a pinned comment if you'd like to go and head over there to back this yourself. But what I actually wanted to talk to you today is about some of the sort of rules and things that I have here. We have, I think we're going to talk a little bit about the kaiju fighting rules here. We'll go over a race and a subclass, right? Just to give you some thoughts about if you've been on the fence. I don't know. Obviously, a lot of people have backed it, and it's showing by the backing amount. But if you're on the fence and are wondering what kind of stuff to expect, well, maybe going through this will help kind of, lean you one way or the other. So, obviously, if you don't know what a kaiju is, think things like Godzilla and all sorts of things from that sort of, giant monsters, right? And what makes them cool is giant monsters, thinking about fighting them would be difficult because obviously they're massive, gargantuan-sized creatures, and how are you going to damage something that large? Well, they added this whole concept of vulnerable areas where you're kind of targeting aspects of the kaiju to kind of bring it down, which makes sense because realistically trying to do mass damage as a regular character to something that's so big would be pretty difficult, but targeting specific areas actually kind of makes a lot of sense. So it says vulnerable areas are weaknesses that cunning adventurers can exploit. Each vulnerable area is listed in the stat block. We'll talk about that. And then it will use its stats unless otherwise told so. It says, while Kaiju's vulnerable area is at 0 hit points, it's considered exploited. The Kaiju's vulnerable area regains all hit points when it finishes a long rest, and it can't regain hit points by any other means. So, targeting. When you're attacking the Kaiju, you can choose where you strike it. Some things have to be specific for creatures, right? Eldritch Blast, Magic Missile could target vulnerable areas on a kaiju. For example, a sorcerer might cast Firebolt, targeting something's fins, tail, snout, or so on. They might have different vulnerabilities and things like that. Area of effects can kind of splash over, but an area of effects damage can only apply to a single vulnerable area, and if no vulnerable area is chosen, it hits its chaos threshold, which we'll talk about in a second. And then ultimately it says the DM has the final call, which is true, right? So it says, upon defeat, when a kaiju's third vulnerable area is exploited, it enters Death's Throes, where it's basically last major ditch to try to do anything before it's ultimately going to die. In addition to unique effects included in its behavior table, which we'll talk about because there's an example at the end, it has advantage on all weapon attacks, and the value an attacker must roll on a d20 score to critical hit it is reduced by 2, meaning it's easier for you to crit. And it says, while in its death throes, a kaiju can be defeated with a finishing blow. To deliver a finishing blow, the kaiju must take sufficient damage on a single turn as shown in its stat block, and again, then it would be defeated, so you get that epic final kill. And then it says, there's more rules here contained in the final version, death rattle and calamitous damage. And it talks about threshold, kaiju behavior, and chaos threshold. So instead of regular hit points, a kaiju has a chaos threshold, which is a pool of hit points separate from those on its vulnerable area. Whenever a kaiju takes damage to a location other than its vulnerable area, it's dealt to its chaos threshold. When the chaos threshold reaches 0, it is not defeated, but it begins to rampage instead, adopting a new behavior. And then again, we talked about how there's a table that describes those. There's also opportunities to move on to the kaiju, right? They are gargantuan creatures. It makes sense that you'd be able to climb on them to fight. It has a little bit of rules tapping into the mounting rules for climbing onto larger creatures and the mount rules that are contained in D&D 5e. And again, it's got a whole little reminder here about it, a reminder about unwilling mounts, how movement works, and getting cover while actually on the creature because it might not be able to reach you depending on where it is. So it says bracing. It says a gnome grips a ship's rigging. The vessel plunges down the face of an enormous wave. The dragon rider presses her knees into the flank of her scaled mount. Bracing yourself can improve your odds, plunging thousands of feet and an untimely demise. You're fighting on something, it's easy to fall off. So reaching a kaiju's vulnerable areas may require an adventurer to scale the creature. To repel unwanted passengers, all kaiju have a special bonus action, Shake Off. The DC of this action saving throw is based on its stat block, and this is essentially a strength or dex saving throw to try to shake you loose to knock you off. But then you have the opportunity to brace. To brace, you must spend movement equal to half your movement speed to brace yourself using surfaces or objects in your immediate vicinity. When you do so, you are braced until the start of your next turn. Your speed is 0. You have advantage on ability checks and saving throws to avoid being moved against your will. Right. So if they're going to try to shake you off, you can kind of brace yourself so you don't get knocked loose. And it ends when you move away from the surface. You can't brace yourself on a creature unless it's gargantuan in size. And if you are braced, the first attack roll it makes against you before the start of your next turn has advantage, right? Because you're braced up against it, so it's going to have a free shot at you because you're not moving, but you're also going to potentially not get thrown loose. All right, and then it says preparing for battle. You can obviously try to gather clues on the creature to learn what you're going to do. And then we actually have a stat block here for this sort of large serpent creature you see here, which looks like it's Bakurio, the Heavenly Torrent, which is this. You can see there's a little bit more. It's like an underwater serpent creature. And here is the actual stat block for this creature, challenge rating 21, right? Here is the chaos threshold's 150. The finishing blow threshold here is 50. It's got a bunch of resistances and immunities. Let's see what we've got. Kaiju Force. You can use an action to move through any object or magical barrier as though it were difficult terrain, destroying it in the process. In addition, it deals double damage to objects and structures. Bludgeoning, piercing, slashing that it deals is magical. Okay? It is immune to any spell or effect that would alter its form. It's got legendary resistance. All right, and it has its water form. While in water form, it has immunity to all damage types except for cold force and lightning, and can enter a hostile creature's space and move through 1-inch spaces without squeezing. But her fins and upturn scale vulnerable areas aren't targetable. She can't be scaled, and she can't use her breath weapon. Freezable. If she takes 15 or more cold damage in a single turn, she freezes, and when she's frozen, she is restrained and loses immunity to non-magical bludgeoning, piercing, slashing. And then can do whelming force. This is a thing we see. Whelm as an ability for water elementals. So again, moves into a creature's space and kind of grapple them and deal damage. Then we have kind of just generic actions. So it says, uses her Rapture. She then just charges her breath weapon if charged, or makes one bite attack and one claw attack. So Rapture recharges on a 5/6, and a dazzling burst of white light. Bakurio attempts to seize command of the spirits of each creature within 120 feet. You must make a DC 22 Charisma save, or have your body be overwhelmed with divine magic, causing you to be blinded, deafened, and restrained, and lifted 30 feet into the air where you hover in place. We have a 200-foot cone breath weapon that does 12d8 damage of an energy type, of the type of energy that was charged. Con save, and then we have obviously Bite, Claw, and tail attacks for a large amount of damage, and the tail attack also has a knock prone ability. For bonus actions, we have the ability to charge the breath weapon, where her fins glow a certain color. Orange if charging thunder, yellow if charging radiant. So then again, you can pick which kind of damage you want to do with the breath weapon. If Bakurio doesn't use her breath weapon action by the end of the next turn, or use this bonus action again on her next turn, it stops glowing and basically the breath weapon fizzles out for the time being. We talked about the ability to shake people off. That's a bonus action. And then Hollow Roar, only when water form exploited. Each creature other than Bakurio within 60 feet must make a con save or take thunder damage. And then legendary actions, of which she has 3. 1 for an attack, or 1 to shake off, and then move up to half her movement speed. Here's obviously the behaviors and vulnerable areas we were talking about. So the vulnerable areas are fins, upturned, scale, and then while in water form. And these are the things you're going to want to try to exploit to deal damage to the kaiju, right? So fins, this vulnerable area is immune to all damage. While the fins are glowing, they lose immunity to the damage type they're charging, either radiant or thunder. Once exploited, Bakurio loses her breath weapon action and gains a new bonus action, Hollow Roar. So you can shut down the fins, knock the breath weapon out, but it adds a new ability. Upturn Scale. This vulnerable area is not targetable when she's in her water form. And then water form, this vulnerable area is only targetable while in her water form. In this form, she can't be scaled. She can't only be damaged by cold force and lightning. Cold damage can freeze her, allowing creatures to also damage her with bludgeoning, piercing, slashing. And then we have a variety of behaviors here, right? Rampage. This is, again, if the chaos threshold is brought down to 0. She enters her water form. Heavenly Cascade. Her water form vulnerable area is exploited. She exits her water form with an echoing roar. A torrential downpour begins in a 10-mile radius, lightly obscuring anything beyond 30 feet. The ground becomes difficult terrain. Hollow Roar, again, if the Bakurio's fins vulnerable area is exploited. She can no longer use her breath weapon. She gains Hollow Roar. And then again, Death Throes. Has 3 exploited vulnerable areas. She loses her flying and swimming speeds, falls prone, and she's killed when she takes damage equal to her finishing blow in a single turn. And then we have some art here for this sort of serpentine creature. And this is a really interesting concept. I've always liked the concept we saw with like the mythic creatures that WotC released, where it's like it gets down to a certain threshold and it pops back up with more hit points, kind of enters its second boss phase, if you will, and then gets a new ability. This kind of takes that to another level. All right, next up here, we have the Atatsu race, which is essentially like a floral race, as you can see here. And it's got some pretty interesting abilities, right? It says they briefly share in the physiology. Wow, I'm having a hard time saying this. Of creatures who die, they can permanently take on physical characteristics of their environment over a long duration. Humid jungles might impart an Atatsu with permanent scent of rich flora, while icy mountains cause them to be their body to forever be chill to the touch. They're naturally passionate and active. Does it give us any more? Let's see. Yeah, a race of sentient plants. So, we do have traditional ability scores here, right? Charisma by 2, Wisdom by 1, walking speed of 30 feet. You are considered a plant type, which is interesting, which means you'll avoid things that like hold monster, or hold person rather, which target a humanoid, because you are not a humanoid, you are a plant. You have Gaze of Death, giving you proficiency in one of the following skills: Intimidation, Medicine, Nature, or Survival. You have Essence Capture. You have the power to magically capture fragments of a creature's power when it dies in your proximity. As a reaction, when a creature with a CR equal to or lower than your level dies within 10 feet of you, you can capture essence from it. You gain one of the following. You replace your strength, dexterity, intelligence, wisdom, or charisma ability score with the same ability score of the creature that died. That's wildly interesting. You gain 1 special sense of your choice, except True Sight that the creature had. You gain resistance to 1 damage type that the creature had. Of your choice to which the creature had resistance or immunity. You gain immunity to 1 condition of your choice that the creature had. It lasts for an hour, after which time you return to normal. You're also rugged. While you aren't wearing armor, your base armor class is 12 plus your constitution modifier, and you have advantage on saving throws against being frightened or stunned. This is a very unique and interesting race. This essence capture ability is obviously quite powerful. I think everybody can agree with that, but also it's pretty unique and interesting, and I find myself looking for more interesting stuff. And now that 5e's been around for so long, I want something a little more different and unique. And then lastly here we have the Spirit Caller Sorcerer subclass. Right? Legends tell us Spirit Caller is born when the soul of a yokai and a humanoid meet in the misty void that holds minds waiting to be given life. Spirit Callers are able to manifest their power and vitality as a spectral being, a wraith-like spirit. So we have our spell casting, because we are doing the new sort of sorcerer thing where we're giving extra spells at levels so that sorcerers aren't so under-leveled with spell choices. Command, Mage Armor, Minor Illusion at level 1. Aid, Mirror Image at level 3. Plant Growth, Phantom Steed at 5. Banishment, Guardian of Faith at 7. Reincarnate and Seeming at 9. And then Astral Projection at 17. So we get Conduit of the Soul at first level. You use an action to manifest your spirit, which appears in an unoccupied space within 30 feet of you. It uses the manifested stat block, which we'll take a look at. You decide the appearance. While manifested, it shares your initiative. As a bonus action, you can manage to take the attack action. Otherwise, it takes the dodge or help action. It remains manifested for 10 minutes or until it's reduced to 0 hit points. You can use this feature twice per short or long rest. So here is its stat block. It is a small or tiny fae. It has 13 plus your proficiency bonus in armor class, 5 plus 5 times your sorcerer level and hit points. It's got a couple of skill proficiencies here: intimidation, perception, and stealth. Dark vision out to 30 feet. And then it has multi-attack. The spirit makes a number of attacks equal to half your proficiency bonus rounded down. For Spirit Grasp, which is a spell attack modifier, using your spell attack modifier for a melee attack, doing a d8 plus proficiency bonus, necrotic or radiant damage. Or Spirit Rend, which is ranged, 60 feet, a d6 plus proficiency bonus. And then as a bonus action, it can make a perception check. So this is kind of like your, almost like a pet-style spirit summoning class for a sorcerer, which is interesting. I really like this. I love pet classes. You know this about me, so I'm obviously kind of biased towards this. At 6th level, you also get Spirit Synchronicity. When you use a meta magic option on a spell within range other than self, you can cause the spell to originate from your spirit, as long as it's within 120 feet of you. This is pretty standard stuff we see kind of for familiars, so that makes sense. Spirit Empowerment, also at level 6. When you manifest your spirit using your Conduit of Soul feature, You can expend any number of sorcery points. When you do choose one of the boons that you expend, your spirit gets an additional ability of some kind. Okay, so let's see. You can manifest the spirit, can gain these boons until it disappears. You can select this. You can't select the same boon more than once at the same time unless otherwise stated. All right, so we have resistance. It gets resistance to a damage type of your choice. Extended stay. The maximum amount of time your spirit can remain extends by 10 minutes. You can select this boon multiple times, equal to your proficiency bonus. So let's do up to a number of times so you can continue to boost this, make it stay longer. Enlarge, its size category increases, its reach increases by 5 feet, and it gets an additional D8 on its damage when it hits. Teleporter, it can bonus action teleport to 30 feet to an unoccupied space. Frenzy, it has advantage on all melee attack rolls, but attack rolls against it have advantage. Detonator, when it reduces to 0 hit points, each creature of your choice within 20 feet must make a dex save. This is actually really good. Against your spell save DC, or take 2 necrotic damage equal to 2d10 plus your sorcerer level. A nice death explosion is always fun. Of one mind, you can use a bonus action to see through what its eyes and hear what it hears, but you become deaf and blind while doing so. Devil's Sight can see through magical and non-magical darkness out to 120 feet. It's double its movement speed. Or Battlefield Squire. After your spirit takes the help action, it can use a bonus action that turn to take the disengage or dodge action. We get Durable Connection at 14. You have advantage on Constitution saving throws made to maintain concentration on your manifested spirit and on conjuration spells. In addition, you share any damage resistance that your manifested spirit gets. That's really nice. So if you want to pour resistances into your spirit from spirit empowerment, then you also will benefit from them. And I also missed that, but it does look like, are you concentrating? Oh yeah, you're concentrating on summoning it. So that's, I was wondering how they were going to balance how powerful this is. The offset is that it is a concentration ability to have your spirit manifested, which makes sense. You do have Constitution saving throw proficiency as a sorcerer, so that's a little bit boosted. And here at 14, you do get advantage on Constitution saving throws made to upkeep it. So that's pretty good as well. And then lastly, at level 18, you no longer need to maintain concentration on your manifested spirit. You can cause it to disappear at any time with no action. In addition, you can now select the Enlarge boon to increase your spirit size with Spirit Empowerment feature up to a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. It was previously just you can only do it once. Now you can spend more points to continue to increase its size, continue to boost its reach, and to boost its damage. I really like this subclass, right? I've been kind of warming up to Sorcerer a little bit more, so the more recent developments on Sorcerer. This is pretty interesting. It kind of fulfills my like of a pet class. It has a lot of versatility and options to change things up. I like that all the subclass features synergize very well, right? The advantage on the saving throws to maintain it, the you getting to share the benefits, and then again, only in the form of resistances, but still. And then at 18, it actually feels like a legitimate capstone as you no longer need to concentrate on it, and you can bump up its size if you really want to. So I think these are all fantastic things that we saw here, both the kaiju fighting. We didn't even get to talk about because we didn't have the thing for it, but there are combo rules in this book as well. So, like, you could do combo rules to set up to even do more damage when you're doing things like kaiju fighting. And there was even something that I didn't think really fit with the time to go over it, but an actual example Kaiju Hunt, which is a separate aspect of this as well. Not only are the kaiju fighting rules, but there are also rules for tracking and hunting down a kaiju. So yeah, I think this is absolutely fantastic. I think it's definitely, like I said, one of the breakout Kickstarters of this year. And yeah, it's at 1.6 million raised. Obviously, stretch goals are being shredded through at the moment. So if you're looking to pick up an amazing thematic adventure, as well as campaign setting, subclasses, races, monsters, all this kind of stuff, you're definitely going to want to check out Ryoko's Guide to the Kaiju Realm, or to the Yokai Realms. I'm sorry. I'll have, again, link in the video description. Magic items, magical prosthesis, so much cool stuff here. So let's go ahead and scroll down so we can just get an idea of where we're looking with stretch goals, because I can't imagine. Look at all the new tiers have been unlocked as well. I think with new options that weren't here before. Look at all these different options because of all the things that have been unlocked. Digital top-down tokens, the Sensei Tamer subclass, Katana dice holder STL files, more tokens, a new race option, as well as more tokens. There's a ton of stuff has been unlocked in the process here, so a bunch more is likely to still be unlocked. We can actually get there. Here we go. You have this STL file for a Katana holder for dice. Again, more tokens, Kaiju cheat sheets, cardboard tokens. Here's a brand new race. And then again, we're coming up on yokai cardboard tokens here as well, and advanced weapon techniques possibly in the future. So anyway, let me know your thoughts and opinions. Have you already backed Ryoko's Guide to the Yokai Realms? Did this change your mind one way or another? I'm very excited to see what else gets unlocked as the rest of this Kickstarter continues, as there's still 20 days left. So anyway, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.